It's my absolute pleasure today being joined by Jiveny Blair-West, and I consider her to be Australia's best female dating and attraction coach. As well as appearing on podcasts, she's also an excellent blog writer and a co-author of a book that she wrote with her father, Dr. George Blair-West, a psychiatrist, titled How to Make the Biggest Decision of Your Life. So be sure to grab your copy.
Thank you for having me.
What got you into this whole dating space as a dating coach to begin with?
Yeah, funnily enough, it kind of tends to run in my family.
Yeah.
Both my parents are relationship therapists. So my dad's a psychiatrist and my mom's a psychologist, and they both work with couples and on specializing in relationship therapy. So that kind of led to a lot of discussions growing up around the dinner table around what brings people together, what pushes them apart, what makes a great relationship. And growing up, you kind of think that whatever environment you grow up in is normal. So for me, that was my normal, until I got a bit older and started dating and started to realize that a lot of my peers weren't having these conversations at home, and it was just, a whole new terrain for a lot of them. It was always something that's fascinated me, because relationships, even though I had that background, I had to make my own mistakes still. So there's definitely moments when I didn't understand what I was doing dating. And as all teenagers do, you kind of push your parents' advice away until you're ready to hear it.
Yes.
So I had to go on a bit of a journey myself. But it was really when I got my own heart broken that I went through this kind of dark night of the soul, where I worried that I wouldn't ever find anyone like him again. And I wondered if I was actually lovable, and was this going to work out for me? And it really shook my confidence. So from that place, it took me about 18 months to get over that.
Wow.
And during that time, I was really doing a deep dive into wanting to be a better partner. I think that's a really fundamental place for us to come from. And I had to really take stock of where was I not showing up in my relationships to be able to have that healthy, lasting relationship. And then, of course, that actually led me to go and study life coaching. Now I've been coaching for 6 years full-time, working with men and women ages 20 to 70. And I just really enjoy what I do.
I can really resonate with that. I think from a kind of like a heartbreak, it helps you, gives you that realization about relationships and your life in general. But yeah, I can totally resonate with that. At what age was that, out of curiosity?
I was 25 when that happened. So it was also just around that age where I personally started thinking, I need to find like a serious life partner. I want to, have kids in my future and start a family. And this is the time when, that often kicks in for us women.
And so you're coaching females at the moment as a female dating coach, right?
Yeah, I've decided to really focus more on women over the years. I really enjoy working with women. And I guess working with men is great, and I do still work with some men.
Yep.
But I kind of realized there are things that I can help men with in terms of sharing a women's perspective and calling out things that they wouldn't necessarily notice themselves. Yep. But ultimately, I feel like there are some things that men can only learn from men, and there are some things that women can only learn from women. And it's about doing that work from the inside out rather than the outside in.
What would you say is like the kind of most common challenges you face across most of your clients?
Yeah, well, I do work with quite a broad range of clients. I worked with women from age 20 to 70. So there are some unique challenges at different age stages, I find. But I'd say the majority of my clients come to me when they're in their 30s, and especially mid to late 30s, because they're really feeling that pressure of their biological clock ticking, and they're really starting to worry about, finding a quality life partner. And often up until that point, they've been running on instinct, and they've been maybe picking up little bits of advice from here and there. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. But often it becomes this journey of the blind leading the blind and leading the blind. And this can be really frustrating. And often one of the most common patterns I see is that they end up attracting emotionally unavailable people, which is a really painful pattern to be stuck in. And often that can come back to not quite knowing how to express healthy boundaries. So a lot of the work that I do with women is also about giving them those skills of how to express healthy boundaries, so that they don't have too many boundaries, that they're pushing good quality men away, or they don't have no boundaries where they're letting people walk all over them.
It's important to have that balance, because I've definitely met a lot of women that just put up so many boundaries where they're blocking a lot of guys out, and then they're wondering, why can't I meet a genuine guy out there? So, it's like a little bit frustrating, but I think that's very well said. And it's important that someone like yourself is really helping them out there understand that fine balance.
For sure. And I think so many women don't understand how they're doing that. It's become unconscious. And I think a lot of the time, because a lot of my clients are in like quite corporate environments, quite masculine environments, they get stuck in competitive mode, competing with men. So when it comes to dating, they don't quite know how to shift out of that so that they can attract men in a romantic way.
No, I think you just hit a light bulb moment. I think that's actually really good that you've shared that. And so, like, over the years of coaching, even not just with your clients, but also through your own personal life, like, what do you feel have been the biggest lessons you've learned throughout dating and relationships?
There are many, but one that really stands out, probably the biggest one that I had to learn, and I'm so glad that I learned it in time, because it could have cost me, I'm married now and I have like the best relationship could have ever hoped for. But if I didn't learn this lesson soon enough, it could have meant that I didn't get here in the end, right?
Yeah.
And that lesson is recognizing that great partners, our perfect partner for us, whatever that might look like, can often come in unexpected packaging. And what I mean by that is, so often we don't know yet, especially for women, it takes us time to get to know someone. But I think particularly with online dating, we can get confused and focus on a lot of superficial things, qualities, because the apps really set us up for that, that we end up dismissing people who could actually be a great partner for us.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Like, I think, and I've spoken to a lot of my own clients, and even for myself, like over the years, I've built up like a massive checklist. And I think that if you go a bit too far with that, you can kind of definitely be overlooking a lot of just the really good qualities. Right. So yeah, and you mentioned
Sure.
I think, which brings me to my next question, like, before the dating apps and everything, social media, it's kind of made some form of an impact in the world of dating these days. But what are your kind of views on that? Do you feel social media has made an impact, whether it's positive or negative, towards the whole dating and relationship space right now?
I think it certainly does encourage people to focus more on what I call superficial attraction, which means focusing more on how things look than the actual connection. And I think that that can be dangerous. A lot of people are comparing their backstage with people's front stage and then beating themselves up, telling themselves, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, blah, blah, blah. And that can be really detrimental to our confidence and to also being able to find a healthy partner, because sometimes that can lead us to, again, focus on the wrong things, like, oh, he's really handsome, or she, or whoever, they're really handsome, or they've got a great job, or they've got, these elements that don't necessarily mean that they're going to be a great partner to you.
So what do you feel is like the most important dating advice you could give to the men out there that are looking for their dream partner?
I would say learn to become a safe and effective man, because high quality women, first of all, they need to know that they can trust you. So you need to be able to show them that you're safe, that you're a safe person to be around. And also that you're effective, which means that you have your shit together. They're not going to have to mother you. That's one of the biggest resentments of women, is like, I don't want to be his mother. I don't want to have to micromanage him. And of course, that's not cool for the men too. I know that men hate that. They hate being nagged. But a lot of it is about really taking stock of how effective are you being at your life, and where might you need to step up to show and to be able to communicate to women that you're an effective man and you're a safe man.
In what ways? Like, I guess, they're not going to just go up to a woman and just say, hey, I'm a safe type of guy, right?
Yeah,
But
you
like,
can't just say this stuff.
but if you were to give like one small example of how a man can demonstrate this.
Well, one thing I'll add to that is it's important to recognize that women are actually biologically programmed to be turned off by ineffectiveness, because women can get pregnant. And even before we get pregnant, before we've ever experienced that, on an unconscious biological level, we're aware that that could be a quite vulnerable state to be in. And even if we're just, dating someone for sex, often we still want to know, are they safe and effective, just in case that were to happen? Would they be able to look after us, and would they have their back? So, some basic things that could come to effectiveness, or that could demonstrate effectiveness, because like you just said, you can't just say, hey, I'm an effective man. You've actually got to demonstrate it. So things like knowing how to change a car tire, knowing how to cook a few healthy, nutritious meals. Like all you need is 3. Just nail them, learn them, and that can be really impressive. Knowing how to read a map, knowing how to, pay bills on time and having systems in place for that. These sorts of things are going to make her feel much more relaxed around you, knowing that you can take care of stuff without her having to worry about it.
Pretty much aligned with things that we teach our own clients. And I tell all the men out there, I'm like, look, she's looking for a rock to kind of be, someone that's stable, that she can feel safe around, and that she knows when times kind of get tough, she knows that you've got her back, and you can, especially if down the track they have kids together and finances kind of don't, they go south, or she loses her job, she needs to know that this guy can support them and kind of take the appropriate measures and action if situations ever were to go south. So yeah, I think you've really nailed it in terms of how you explained it.
We're entering an era where there's more and more natural disasters. We've had crazy bushfires, we've had flooding in it just this year, right? And in those circumstances, if you've got a family, like, you need to know that your partner isn't just going to crumble into a mess and not know what to do, but that he can actually, jump into gear and be practical and, keep the family safe and keep you all alive.
I think that's one of the biggest life tests to really see if a man's really a man, when shit hits the fan, and you can kind of see, do they really have it to pull shit together or not?
Yeah, but that's the thing, like, as women, we don't want to wait till that. We want to see that there are those signs all the way up until hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, for sure.
I totally understand. And no, I think that was great. I think I think a lot of men will really gain a lot of value just by hearing you say that. Absolutely. What is your approach when it comes to you working with women?
Yeah, so everything starts with what I call a discovery and strategy session. This is our first session together, and it's about an hour. It is designed to really sit down together so that we can connect. And I really want to go deep into understanding your relationship history. What are the recurring patterns? Where have you come from? We also have a look at your family history, because there is a correlation there between what you learn from those from our parents growing up about relationships and how that can often play out in our relationships as adults. So that's always really important starting place for me to explore with someone so that I can really get to know them. And then, of course, we'll talk about the client's goals for moving forward, what they want to get out of this. Obviously, there's often the overarching goal of wanting to get into a healthy, committed relationship, but often we'll also identify some micro goals along the way. So it could be, developing healthier boundaries, learning how to be vulnerable in a way that lets men in rather than scares them away, understanding like the dating process and the different milestones and how to actually approach that in a appropriately paced way so that we're not going too fast or too slow. So I like to get really specific, but of course it takes that first session to get to know each other. And that's also an opportunity for my clients to decide if working with me is a good match for them.
And obviously you run programs, and one's coming up.
Yes, I've got my signature Alchemy of Attraction course, which is for women. It's a 9-week group program. And in that course, we're working with archetypes.
Yep.
And that can be really helpful in terms of having a reference point for developing new skills and behaviors. And it's all about developing the skills specifically for a healthy, secure relationship, and also understanding men and understanding that often we can project onto men, we expect them to respond like we would or like our girlfriends would, and there can be a lot of miscommunication that comes with that. So understanding the fundamental differences between men can actually be really empowering, because then we can learn to calibrate to connect with them in a deeper way.
Our female audiences listening to this today, they should definitely check it out. It sounds like they'll gain a lot of value. And I know, like, from time to time when we get a lot of females reaching out to us, they kind of do feel a little bit lost, and they're not sure how to really attract the right type of guy in their life, or and there's a lot of miscommunication. I feel like it sounds like this program will definitely answer a lot of those uncertainties and help give them a lot of clarity.
Yeah, this has been my life's work to date. I really love teaching it. It's just really beautiful. I've had so much great feedback from the students who have gone through it before. I run it twice a year and I just love it. It's so, so valuable.
Oh, amazing. I'm excited to hear more about it, and I'm sure people that check out your website and yeah, look you up and set up that first call with you will definitely gain a lot of insights into the whole dating and relationship space. So yeah, wrapping up, like, how can our listeners hear a little bit more and find out more about you?
Yeah, so the simplest thing is to go to my website, which is jiveny.com. So my name is spelled Jiveny, or you can find me on Instagram at Jiveny Blair-West and connect with me there.
Fantastic. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today, and I really appreciate your time and everything that you've shared today. And I'm sure all the listeners out there right now are going to really enjoy and gain a lot of value out of today's interview.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.